The college football regular season being about 2/3 of the way done, we have seen a lot of players rise to the occasion for the 2022 college football campaign, really breaking out on the national stage and making their name known. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some college football players that are absolutely breaking out in 2022. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first player that I'm going to be talking about in today's video is Tennessee wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. In the previous seasons prior to 2022 for Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt has been a solid receiver. 2020, he had 20 receptions for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2021, 21 receptions for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. However, in this current 2022 campaign, he's made himself into a national name in college football. As in 8 games played, 45 receptions for 907 yards, averaging 20 yards per reception and 14 total touchdowns through the air. In receiving yards, he's number 4 in the NCAA and number 1 in the SEC. In receiving touchdowns, he's number 1 in the nation. If he keeps up this level of play, he's going to be a for sure Biletnikoff Award finalist, an All-American, and maybe, just maybe, even win the Biletnikoff Award. Moving on to the next player, it is Illinois running back Chase Brown. When talking about Chase Brown as a player, he kind of broke out prior to 2022 in 2021 for Illinois, as in 10 games played for the Fighting Illini, he had 1,005 rushing yards, averaged nearly 6 yards carries, and 5 touchdowns. That was a great season. However, 2022 has treated him much better, as he's been one of the best running backs in the nation. Some may even argue the best running back in the nation. And this is, to me, his true breakout season. As in 8 games played, he has 1,208 yards, averaging over 5 yards a carry, and 5 touchdowns on a top 15 ranked Illinois football team that is currently 7-1. Also, he leads the nation in rushing yards. Brown is definitely one of the best running backs in the nation right now, and he is a big key for that Fighting Illini team and is a huge part of their offense. To me, he's playing at an All-American level right now, and if he keeps up this production, he could have a good say in the Doak Walker Award. Staying in the Big Ten with this next player is Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. Emeka is in his first season as a starting receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes and is a true sophomore. He was one of the highest rated players in the class of 2021, and he's showing why in his current 22 campaign for the Buckeyes. As in 8 games played this season, he has 47 receptions for 788 receiving yards, averaging nearly 17 yards per reception, and a total of 7 touchdowns through the air. He's number 5 in the Big Ten for receptions, number 2 in the Big Ten for receiving yards, and is number 3 in the Big Ten for receiving touchdowns. Egbuka definitely has a bright future as one of the top receivers in all of college football, and the scary thing is, he still has another year of full eligibility ahead of him. Next up, we're going to switch it over to the defensive side of the ball with defensive lineman from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson. In a season prior to the current 2022 college football campaign, Tyree Wilson was a big part of that Texas Tech Red Raider defense in 2021, as he had 38 total tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and even a pass deflection in 13 games played. However, his 2022 season up to this point has been absolutely dominant, as he's been one of the best defensive linemen in the nation up to this point. 51 total tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 forced fumble in 8 games played for the Red Raiders. He leads the Big 12 for tackles for loss and is currently 2nd place in sacks for the Big 12. His NFL draft stock has skyrocketed this season, as he seems to be one of the more consistent and better defensive linemen in the nation right now, and it seems like he could be drafted anywhere from the 1st to 2nd rounds in the 2023 NFL Draft, especially if he keeps up this production of play. Switching back to the running back position just briefly, I'm going to be talking about Michigan running back Blake Corum. Similar to the Big Ten running back that I mentioned earlier in the video in Chase Brown of Illinois, Blake Corum also had a good season in 2021, in which in 12 games for Michigan, He had 144 rushing attempts for 952 rushing yards, averaging 6.6 yards a carry, and a total of 11 touchdowns on the ground. That's a great season. However, to say that would be his big breakout season would be an understatement, as he wasn't the main running back for Michigan in 2021, as it was mainly Hassan Haskins who had nearly double the amount of carries than Blake did in 2021. Now, in this current 2022 season, Blake Corum is the workhorse back for Michigan, and he is absolutely living up to the role that he has right now. As in 8 games played, he has 1,078 rushing yards, averaging 6 yards a carry, and a total of 14 touchdowns on the ground and 15 total all-purpose. When comparing him to other running backs in the nation, he is currently number 2 in rushing yards in the Big Ten. And he's number 1 in the nation for Big Ten for rushing touchdowns and number 2 in the nation for NCAA total rushing touchdowns. With the way that he is performing as of right now, if he keeps up the level of production that he has, and if Michigan stays the way they are as a team that has a chance to be a playoff team for the second year in a row, Blake Corum is not only going to be a potential All-American, a Doak Walker Award winner, but there is a good and real chance that Blake Corum is a Heisman finalist. Going back to the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to be talking about next Laiatu Latu, edge rusher for UCLA. Latu may have one of the best comeback stories out of anyone playing college football in 2022 right now. As an immediate impact freshman for Washington in 2019, he showed a lot of promise and potential as he had 15 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and half a sack. Unfortunately, he sustained a neck injury that would not only sideline him for a few years, but put his career in jeopardy, as at some points it seemed like he may have never been able to return to the sport of football. Fast forward to the year of 2022, he's now a UCLA Bruin and is playing his first collegiate snaps since he sustained a neck injury with Washington all the way back in 2019. And he's not disappointing in 2022 up to this point, as in 8 games played, 26 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 1 pass deflection, and 3 forced fumbles. He's number 5 for tackles for loss in the Pac-12. Number 1 for sacks in the Pac-12, number 5 in the NCAA for sacks, number 1 in the Pac-12 for fumbles forced, and number 2 in the NCAA for fumbles forced. For someone that's missed a lot of football over the past few seasons, he's playing like he's never missed a game yet. For the final player in today's video, it will be UNC quarterback Drake Maye. Drake Maye is a first-year starting quarterback for UNC as a redshirt freshman in 2022. In 8 games played, he's been absolutely phenomenal, playing like a top 5 quarterback, completing 71% of his passes, throwing for 2,671 yards, 29 touchdowns compared to only 3 interceptions. He's also been good on the ground as well, rushing for 439 yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry, and accounting for 3 total touchdowns on the ground. When comparing him to other NCAA quarterbacks, he's number 9 in pass completion percentage, number 1 in the ACC for that stat. He's number 1 in the ACC for passing yards, number 5 in the NCAA for passing yards. In passing touchdowns, he leads the ACC in that at number 1, and is number 1 in the NCAA for passing touchdowns at number 29. The quarterback position was a position of question for UNC heading into 22, as they lost longtime starting quarterback Sam Howell, but to say that there's been a drop-off would be impossible to say, as Drake Maye, like I said, is playing like a top 5 quarterback, and one can even argue that this season he's off to right now is better than the ones that Sam Howell had as a UNC quarterback. That could be stretching it a little bit, as Sam Howell did have a strong 2020 season for the Tar Heels, but Drake Maye is playing absolutely unreal right now, and you got to give him a lot of credit when credit is due. Well guys, if you made this far in the video, drop something down in the comment section below what players you think I missed in this video. And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. Be Kelly out.